The Seeds of a Dreamer, Jung's Childhood and Early Struggles. Carl Gustav Jung was born on July 26, 1875, in a small village in Switzerland. At first glance, his childhood looked ordinary, the son of a pastor and a mother who came from a traditional Swiss family. But deep inside, young Carl was anything but ordinary. He was a child who carried a universe within himself. From an early age, Carl lived in two different worlds. One was the visible, physical world, full of people, daily struggles, and the reality of life. The other was a mysterious inner world of dreams, visions, and symbols. He often felt that he was living two lives at once. As a child, he would sit alone for hours, lost in imagination, feeling a presence of something much greater than himself. He once said, "My life is a story of the self-realization of the unconscious." Even as a boy, he sensed that the human mind had hidden depths that most people never dared to explore. But his early life was not easy. His father, a pastor, was burdened with doubts about religion. His mother, at times, suffered from emotional struggles. Carl grew up feeling lonely, sometimes even alienated. He often felt misunderstood by others because of his strange dreams and thoughts. This loneliness, however, became the soil in which his inner world grew. The child who loved silence. While other children played loudly, Carl loved silence. He spent hours near the lake, the mountains, and the forests of Switzerland. Nature was his first teacher. The stillness of the trees and the mystery of the stars filled his young soul with questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What lies beyond what I can see? These questions never left him. They became the foundation of his lifelong search for meaning. A battle with fear. At school, Carl was not always confident. Once, after being pushed by another student, he fell unconscious. The fear of fainting made him avoid people and studies. For months, he stayed home pretending to be weak. Teachers thought he would never succeed. His father believed he would never go far. But one day, while sitting alone, Carl realized something powerful. If I continue like this, I will become nothing. I must face my fears. That realization became a turning point. He forced himself to study again with such determination that he rose to the top of his class. This was Jung's first great lesson. Strength is not given. It is built by confronting fear. The spark of psychology. As a teenager, Carl discovered philosophy, mythology, and religion. He was fascinated by ancient stories, symbols, and the mysteries of the human soul. He wanted to understand why people dream, why they suffer, and why they search for meaning. Every night, he recorded his dreams. He felt that dreams were not random. They were messages from a deeper world inside him. This belief would later become one of his greatest contributions to psychology. The pain that built a vision. Though Carl seemed strange to others, he transformed his loneliness into a gift. The silence, the struggles, the fear, all became fuel for his inner journey. While many children dream of toys and games, Carl dreamed of truth. From those early years, one message shines through his life. Your struggles are not weaknesses. Your loneliness is not emptiness. They are seeds, seeds of a dreamer waiting to grow into something extraordinary. Carl Jung's childhood teaches us that greatness is often born in quiet places, in misunderstood moments, and in struggles that shape the soul. The meeting of minds. Friendship and break with Freud. When Carl Jung entered the world of psychology, one name stood above all others: Sigmund Freud. Freud was already a legend, the founder of psychoanalysis,
the man who dared to explore the hidden world of desires, repression, and the unconscious mind. For a young, ambitious psychologist like Jung, meeting Freud was like meeting a giant. In 1907, after months of correspondence, Jung traveled to Vienna to meet Freud for the first time. What happened next became famous in the history of psychology. Their first conversation lasted over 13 hours. Imagine two brilliant minds sitting face to face, exchanging ideas without pause, forgetting the world around them. Freud saw in Jung a rising star, someone who could carry forward his revolutionary ideas. Jung, in turn, saw in Freud a mentor, a guide, and almost a father figure. Freud once told Jung, "You are the crown prince of psychoanalysis." For Jung, this was more than praise. It was a calling, a recognition that his voice mattered in shaping the future of psychology. The power of mentorship. Their friendship was not just professional, it was deeply personal. Freud and Jung wrote letters to each other, exchanged dreams, discussed patience, and even shared personal struggles. For a time, it looked as if together they would change the world. This is the power of mentorship in life. When someone older, wiser, and more experienced recognizes your potential, it can ignite a fire within you. Freud gave Jung that fire. But as the months turned into years, cracks began to appear in their relationship. The first signs of conflict. Freud's theories were groundbreaking, but also controversial. He believed that sexuality was at the root of almost every psychological issue. To Freud, the unconscious was primarily a storehouse of repressed sexual desires and instincts. For Jung, the unconscious was much larger, much deeper. It was not only about desires, but also about meaning, creativity, symbols, and spiritual experiences. Where Freud saw repression, Jung saw possibility. Where Freud saw pathology, Jung saw the seeds of growth. This difference in vision slowly began to create distance between them. The courage to disagree. For Jung, disagreeing with Freud was not easy. Freud was not just a mentor, he was almost like a father. But truth mattered more to Jung than loyalty. He once wrote, "Great is the power of truth, and it prevails." So Jung began to publish his own ideas. He spoke about archetypes, myths, and the collective unconscious. He dared to say that the human soul was not only driven by instincts, but also guided by higher purposes. Freud, however, saw this as betrayal. Their once unbreakable bond began to fracture. Letters grew colder, conversations turned into debates, debates into arguments. By 1913, their friendship had completely broken. The pain of separation. For Jung, this was devastating. Imagine losing not just a friend, but a mentor, a guide, almost a father figure. The psychological pain was unbearable. Jung went into a period of crisis. He felt isolated from the community of psychoanalysts. Many of Freud's followers abandoned him. But this painful separation became a turning point. It forced Jung to stand on his own feet. No longer the crown prince of Freud, he had to become the king of his own ideas. This is a powerful lesson for all of us. Sometimes the people who guide us in the beginning cannot walk with us till the end. Sometimes we must break away from even the strongest bonds to discover our true voice. True growth comes when you stop being someone else's follower and start being the leader of your own destiny. Carl Jung's break with Freud was not just a professional split, it was the moment he became himself.
Forging a new path, the birth of analytical psychology. The break with Freud left Jung standing at a crossroads. On one side was the world of psychoanalysis, powerful but limited to Freud's vision. On the other side was the unknown,
a path Jung would have to carve for himself, with no guarantee of success, no community to support him, and no mentor to guide him. Most people, after losing such a powerful alliance, would retreat into silence, but Jung was not most people. He believed that the greatest discoveries are often born out of the greatest struggles. And so, from the ashes of his friendship with Freud, Jung began building something entirely new: analytical psychology. The darkest hours before dawn. After the split in 1913, Jung fell into what he later described as his confrontation with the unconscious. For years, he battled visions, strange dreams, and inner voices. Some thought he had gone mad, but Jung understood that he was descending into the depths of his own psyche, exploring the very landscapes that most people spend their lives avoiding. He painted images of what he saw, filled notebooks with dreams, and wrote about his inner experiences. These writings later became part of his famous Red Book. What looked like chaos from the outside was actually the birth of a new science from the inside. Jung was mapping the unconscious not as a dark pit of repressed desires, but as a living universe of symbols, archetypes, and meaning. These ideas became the pillars of analytical psychology, a path towards self-discovery and wholeness. Facing the critics. Of course, not everyone welcomed Jung's ideas. Many of Freud's followers dismissed him as mystical, unscientific, or even delusional. Jung was often isolated, criticized, and mocked. But instead of collapsing under pressure, Jung grew stronger. He once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." This quote reflects the essence of Jung's life. He refused to be defined by rejection. Instead, he defined himself by his vision, turning loneliness into leadership. During this period, Jung built his famous retreat at Bollingen Tower near Lake Zurich. There, away from the noise of the world, he meditated, wrote, painted, and reflected. The tower became a symbol of his independence, proof that solitude, when embraced, can become the cradle of greatness. This is a powerful lesson for us. Don't fear loneliness. Use it to listen to your inner voice. Don't run from rejection. Let it refine your purpose. Don't wait for others to believe in you. Believe in yourself first. Jung's loneliness was not an end. It was the soil in which his vision grew. A new vision for humanity. Analytical psychology was not just another school of thought. It was a new lens for humanity. Jung believed that people were not merely patients to be treated, but souls on a journey. His work became not only about curing illness, but about guiding people toward meaning, purpose, and wholeness. He saw therapy not as fixing broken machines, but as helping lost souls rediscover their path. This was a radical idea for his time, and it is one of the reasons Jung remains so inspirational today. Motivational reflection. Think about it. Jung lost his greatest ally, endured years of inner chaos, was mocked by his peers, and yet out of that darkness, he created something that transformed the world. His life teaches us failure can be the birthplace of your true calling. Rejection can redirect you toward your greatest purpose. Solitude can give you the strength to hear your inner voice. Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." By looking inside, he awoke, and in awakening himself, he gave the world a new path to healing and growth. Carl Jung's Birth of Analytical Psychology is not just a story of science. It is a story of courage, of standing alone, of listening to the whispers of the soul, even when the world calls you crazy. If you are standing at a crossroads in life, if you feel rejected, misunderstood, or alone, remember Jung. The path that looks darkest may be the one that leads you to your greatest light.